Welcome back. Shock, horror, and disbelief this morning after former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated in broad daylight on Friday while making a speech in central Japan. Security officials at the scene tackled the gunman, and a 41-year-old suspect is now in police custody. He is facing charges. Former President Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social on social media. He said, "Few people know what a great man and leader Shinzo Abe was, but history will teach them, and be kind. He was a unifier like no other. But above all, he was a man who loved and cherished his magnificent country, Japan. Shinzo Abe will be greatly missed. There will never be another like him," writes President Donald Trump. In a statement, President Biden called Abe's murder a tragedy for Japan and for all who knew him, before pivoting to his own agenda, saying gun violence always leaves a deep scar on the communities that are affected by it. That was his answer to Shinzo Abe's murder. Joining me right now is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. She sits on the Senate Armed Services and Judiciary Committees. Senator, good to have you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Good to be with you. Thank you. Yes, good to be with you, and you're right. Yes.
Go ahead.
Abe will be missed. He was a stabilizing force in the region. He was pro-U.S., pro-Taiwan. He was anti-China dominance. He was very helpful with the North Korean aggression. And Maria, he did so much to do Japan-Taiwan relations, economic normalization, the fisheries accord, flights directly into Taipei. So President Trump is right. He is going to be deeply missed.
I want to get your take on what was very troubling to me to see on social media, and that was some of these posts on Weibo where the Chinese state media was mocking Abe and celebrating his death. We know that the CCP had threatened a quote-unquote bloodbath if Shinzo Abe did not stop advocating for independence for Taiwan. What do you make of the Chinese state media celebrating Shinzo Abe's death? We know that these media platforms are run by the CCP. They are directed by the CCP and often are just a mouthpiece for the Communist Party.
You're right about that. They are the mouthpiece. And we know that the Chinese Communist Party is intent on this malign influence campaign that they are carrying out against elected officials. Last fall, we were informed that they were carrying out one against me. The FBI is following these. DOJ should be paying more attention to these. But you see what they were doing against Abe and against the Japanese government and the Abe policies, the economic policies, his opposition to China. So this is a form of their, as they call it, soft propaganda. They are seeking to influence not only the Japanese people, but the U.S. people. They are seeking to break down not only the Japanese institutions, but U.S. institutions. And the more we have done to close down Confucius Institutes and classrooms and sister city programs, the more they're pushing to get their people into the country, many of them illegally, as Governor Abbott was just talking about, and then infiltrate these institutions.
Okay. Senator, I want to get your take on the surveillance underway from China. Are you being surveilled by Communist China? A new warning from the FBI about Beijing's spy campaign in America and their efforts to influence elections and sway Congress. We'll be right back.
I look at threat streams, and one of the things that I look at is what's called Gates information or Gates procedures. I looked at it. It was so overwhelming related to China that I had a look at the numbers, and what we've learned is that China engages in that activity at a level 6 times greater than Russia, 12 times greater than Iran. It's a massive influence campaign, and really what it's intended to do, Maria, is to influence members of Congress to make sure that they're passing laws that are favorable for China and not passing laws that are anti-China. And they've been successful.
Yes, that was former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe on this program back in December 2020 on China's covert operation to influence members of Congress into supporting pro-Beijing policies, something he made a special trip to Capitol Hill to brief lawmakers on. We're back with Senator Marsha Blackburn. And Senator, U.S. counter-intel officials issued a similar warning this week about China's efforts to influence policymaking. FBI Director Christopher Wray was already aware of this threat, but has he done anything to stop it?
We do not know of anything directly that they are doing to stop it, Maria. And as I said, what they're trying to do is influence not only members of Congress, but state and local officials, and carrying out what they call these malign influence campaigns, where they're trying to influence organizations in churches and schools and push them so that they will come in line with Chinese Communist Party ideals, principles, and goals. And of course, we know that global dominance is one of China's goals. Now, soft propaganda is a big part of this. So using this malign influence, going after people like me online, in not only the virtual, the physical space, to try to push public opinion against me and other members of the House and Senate, but also to get down to that more granular level in your universities, your churches, your organizations.
Yeah. Well, look, here's Christopher Wray this week on this issue, and then I want to come out of this soundbite and show you what Joe Biden has been doing with regard to policy on China. Here's the director of the FBI. Watch.
This spring, the Chinese government went so far as directly interfering in a congressional election in New York because they didn't want the candidate, a Tiananmen Square protester and critic of the Chinese government, to be elected. A former Chinese intelligence officer hired a private investigator to dig up derogatory information and derail the congressional candidate's campaign. And when they couldn't find anything, they decided to manufacture a controversy using a sex worker. And when that didn't work out, they even suggested using violence, such as arranging for the candidate to be struck by a vehicle and making it look like an accident.
Wow, this is just extraordinary. Do you see any foul play behind the murder of Shinzo Abe?
I don't know. We're going to find out more about that investigation. I know they're looking at all options, but Maria, all of that will be information to come in the future. But it is so puzzling when you know this. Why does Joe Biden continue to support policies that embolden the Chinese Communist Party and the axis of evil? Their friends Russia.
Let's take a look at that.
Iran.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that right now, because I have a graphic of what appears to be Joe Biden's China policy. And it is a total soft on China policy. First, we know that the family reportedly accepted $31 million at least from deals in China. That is from Hunter's laptop. And Senator Ron Johnson's investigation and Peter Schweizer's reporting fails to demand any COVID origins investigation. We have no evidence that Joe Biden ever brought up the origins of COVID to Xi Jinping and the 5 phone calls that he's had. He's failing to call for an end of the fentanyl trafficking. I have not heard him mention fentanyl once, and fentanyl is made in China, pushed through Mexico into America. And it continues. He has canceled the China Initiative. This was an initiative that was investigating the continued Chinese intellectual property theft. He's considering lifting the tariffs on China imports. He sent oil from America's strategic reserve to other countries, including China, and he is pushing electric vehicles, solar panels, and batteries aggressively in his climate change agenda, and many of those are made in China. So what's the answer, Senator? Why?
Well, the answer is this. First of all, you have to keep the tariffs in place. I was visiting with a Tennessee wire manufacturer this week. I said, hey, do the tariffs help or hurt? They said, Marsha, it keeps China from dumping into the U.S. You have to keep those. And secondly, sending 5 million barrels of oil, China getting 1 million barrels of our strategic petroleum reserve. Maria, this is dangerous. It's a national security issue. It would lead you to believe Hunter Biden is out here negotiating these deals because Unipec is tied to a company that Hunter is doing some business with. This is wrong. And people are fed up with this. It is a China first policy, not an America first policy. It has got to end.
Just extraordinary. Senator, thank you for your efforts. Marsha Blackburn joining us this morning. Coming up.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.